I've always wondered, is there a better way to deal with like criminals, And throughout my journey, I've always felt as though prisons and jails are, they're like a slavery system. And when these so-called criminals commit certain crimes, we throw them away in jail. Sometimes for years and years and years, sometimes forever. As far as being on Earth. For as long as you'll be on Earth, you'll be in prison, right? And there's some things here. I mean, when you think about when people, if somebody kills somebody, they're not going to, if you put them in prison, they're not going to, that's not going to bring back what they've done. It's not going to bring back your dead relative, right? They're not going to bring back alive the person that they killed. And it has me thinking that the reason why people, want to throw people in jail. There's a psychology behind this, and it's more reasons than one. It's more psychological reasons than one. But one is that I think people on a subconscious level, they know that there's a potential criminal inside of them. And because they exist in this world that tells them, religion and morals tell them that they should be a certain way, they decide to become that certain way without actually becoming that certain way. On the surface, in their conscious mind, they just decide to become good moral beings. But the truth of the matter is that their dark side is still there, and the potential of them doing horrible things to people and horrible things still exist inside of them. The spark, not the spark, but the root cause of which that causes the root issues and the root traumas really that causes people to do horrible things exist in those, that root exists in all of us, exists in all human beings. And I think the potential of people doing horrible things, it exists stronger in some people than some other people. So I think a lot of people, depending on just how subconscious those the potential criminal is inside of them. I think a lot of people, they feel better about themselves when they could throw criminals in jails, because it makes them feel like they're less of a criminal, or it makes them feel more moral. It makes them feel like they are not capable of doing certain things. It diverts the attention away from them, and then they don't show their dark side to people, because there's lots of people. I mean, think about all the serial killers in history. Not all of them, but a lot of them. They put on this persona. Think about somebody like Ted Bundy and how he. I don't know if he's a good example. I think about somebody like John Wayne Gacy, right? He was, I think he was a church guy, but I think, was he involved in some kind of politics thing? But he was a clown, and he was around children, and he put on um, this persona for people, like he is just um, this friendly, wonderful, charismatic person who only wants best for his community, right? But behind closed doors, he was a royal psychopath and sociopath and just savage, right? just saying this to say that a lot of people, forget about criminals, people in general, there's a lot that goes on in people's home that we don't know about. There's a lot that people are a lot of things, and they only show you what they want you to know. Okay? So the people that, that even the very people in law enforcement, some of these people, there's some, a lot of them are some savage, maniac, psychopathic people. A lot of them are some gutter, some of them are horrible people. A lot of pastors are horrible human beings. A lot of people who pride themselves on being really moral, a lot of these people are very immoral, okay? And a lot of times you will see these very people, they support things like the death penalty for criminals. They support things like, they support throwing people in jail, oh, lock them up and throw away the key type of shit. But nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows what goes on in your house. You see, but you could always put on this whole facade, this whole the personality that you want people to believe that you are, while living this closeted lifestyle that you're living. Okay, and I think we all have a part of ourselves that we don't show to people. And I just think that people who support jail system and prisons and even the justice system, a lot of these people, they support these things because it makes them feel somehow vindicated about who knows, about whoever they are, the things that they don't want people to know about them. It makes them feel like they're better, than others. Like they're moral and oh, I'm not capable of certain things. I think that there's other reasons why people want to throw people in jail, and for some reason it's not streaming through right now. But I'm not gonna get mad at myself because I realize that I'm way more relaxed doing this video than I usually am doing videos. Period. And if I ever start making these videos really formal, it's gonna cause me to become it's gonna make me really extremely nervous. So I think I'm just gonna have to start putting myself on camera. I keep saying that I'm gonna do this, and then I end up like holding out and like procrastinating. It's not even procrastinating because every time if I'm not doing this, I'm doing something else pertaining to the work that I want to do, right? So I think that's one of the main reasons why people support throwing people in jail. But the next thing about this issue is these criminals that we're looking at, they're not criminals because they're inherently bad people. Nobody was born into this world thinking that they're just gonna come into this world and be a rapist and be a serial killer and be a robber or drug dealer. It's a different level of trauma that caused them to end up the way they end up. Nobody decide that they're gonna be bad people. And you might say, well, things happen to all of us. So why do they choose the route that they choose? Well, there's a bunch of different factors. There's the factor of some people are more traumatized than others. Some people are more sensitive than others, and there's a bunch of different reasons why people become criminals and others don't. Obviously it's something we don't understand totally. So to just decide that somebody should go to jail or just the prison system should be something that we continue to support is really is some bullshit because nobody nobody came to this life wanting to be. You don't look at a baby and think that that baby is thinking it's gonna grow up and kill a bunch of women or a bunch of people. So we have to start valuing people's lives the same way we value them when they are babies. We have to see the value in them, that they that something happened throughout their life that caused them to go down that path. um, you cannot give people you cannot apply punishment and expect people to rehabilitate from being punished. This punishment, it causes this kind of a shame and guilt and trauma. But it's shame and trauma that cause people to end up being the people that um, that hurt people, or people who end up in jail. It's trauma that got them that in that place. So um, giving them more trauma is gonna do what exactly? It's not gonna heal them. It's not gonna help them. It's only gonna make them worse. So you throw them in jail, and then they become worse, and then you, after a while, some of them might release some of them, and then you let them out in society, and then they can't find jobs, and they end up back in that cycle, and it's just there's a lot of people who profit, a lot of organizations that profit from prisons, and it's just a really inhumane, barbaric way to go about life. And you might say, well, these criminals, they hurt people, why should we care about them? Well, because they were hurt. When you're hurt and you're traumatized from your childhood, sometimes you end up hurting people. So they hurt people, and you hurt them some more. And then they hurt people more. And then you hurt them more. Like, there's no healing in all of this. Where does this end, And because they've hurt people, it doesn't mean you have to keep them in this horrible cycle. If we don't give them healing, if we don't offer them healing some kind of way, so they could rehabilitate in a more natural and authentic way, if we don't offer them that kind of healing, how are we expecting them to go back out in society? And some people don't even want them to go back out in society. Some people want people to stay in jail forever. My question to you is, what do you get out of this? It doesn't bring back the people that they killed, okay? It doesn't bring back the money they robbed. How do you benefit and profit from somebody going to jail forever and ever? I don't want him ever coming out. What how do you benefit from that? I think, there's my hair is just weird right now. People don't understand that religion and stuff like that. Religion presents evil as so-called evil as virtue. The very things that evil people do, the very things that the criminal do, the non-criminals and the anti-criminals, they do them under the guise of morality, under the guise of virtue, under the guise of religion, and under the guise of being under the guise of law. Because all of these things stem from each other, right? Like laws stem from religion, and morals stem from religion, and it's like the people who support the death penalty. How are you better than the person who you wanted Ted Bundy to die? How are you better than him? But you see, people don't want to admit that they too have this spark in them, this trait in them, this root in them that is inherently so-called evil, or they don't believe that they have an inherent killer inside of them. There's a potential killer inside of them. But it's okay to kill people as long as the law is doing it. It's okay to kill people as long as the judge said that they should be hanged and that they should get the electric chair or whatever. But they're doing the same thing. I don't know. I think in the future we're going to look back on these different methods of how we chose to deal with criminals and a bunch of other things that we do now in life and see that, you know, these things were, they were barbaric, they were inhumane, they were contradictory, and they were hypocritical. And I think people get to live out a certain fantasy. They get to live out being a criminal without actually being a criminal. Okay, get out to live out their fantasies of killing other people, of being vindictive, and that's the word I'm looking for. When you want to throw people in jail because they've done something, that's revenge. You know, that's vindication, and there's a, I'm sure, you know, this is like the moral word, the moral way to describe these things. But there is a biblical term for this. What's that? Biblical? Is it wrath? What is that? I'm sure I could find it within the seven deadly sins. There is a biblical term to describe vindication or revenge. What is that? Y'all comment and let me know. Somehow I forgot. I can't think of it right now. But when you, it's a way for people to be vindictive and be revengeful and feel moral about it, because it's along the confines of being religious. You know, it's so twisted. It's sinister, and it's so twisted. People's minds are so twisted. People just do things because really they do, a lot of times they do things because they were told to, by the people that they believe is smarter than them, by the people that they believe is more, is support this mainstream system of laws and ethics and morals and shit. You know, they just kind of do things because of that, and they also do things because it's right. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. It doesn't matter if it's beneficial. It doesn't matter if it's on the flip side, it doesn't matter if it's detrimental. They're just gonna do it because it's right. It's considered right, and this is why a lot of people have issues with thinking logically and using their brain in a really in a generous capacity, because they are so they're so locked up in the idea of being, just doing what is moral. When you start doing what is moral, you know, you're more in line with doing what people are doing because they're doing it. You're more concerned about being accepted and fitting in. Okay, because if I do what's wrong, then I'm going to be an outcast. And once you start doing that, you put your brain and your whole beingness in a state of not being able to think for yourself and think logically and think with open-mindedness and even use intuition and use both sides of your brain and both or more than one aspect of your consciousness, because you're so locked up in being closed-minded. Because this is one reason why people are closed-minded anyway. It's not that they can't become better thinkers. It's that they can't afford to become better thinkers. Because if they do, it's going to be, it's going to cause them to be the outcast, and people are desperately afraid of being ostracized. People are desperately afraid, mostly afraid of not being accepted, of not fitting in. And this is why they can't think for themselves. This is why they can't. I hate using the word logic because, but I'm going to use it so people understand why a lot of people don't think with logic. Because the need to fit in, the need to be to be approved of by the big crowd, the need to be approved of and accepted by the people that you want to be accepted by is much stronger than your ability to see that certain things don't work and they're not beneficial and is not serving us. Okay, it doesn't matter, and so, and that's the thing. People, it doesn't matter if things are gonna work, because this selfish need to be accepted by others is just way too. It's too penetrating. It's too influential on your psyche. So you can't really think outside of that. You can't really open your consciousness to anything else because you are so locked up, and locked in to the idea of doing what's right solely because you have to be accepted by the people around you. And there's nothing wrong with wanting acceptance, because this is a human need and we all need this. But we have to start to evaluate ourselves and find out why, who do we want to be accepted by, and why do we want to be accepted by these people. At the root of that, you're going to find your own childhood traumas and your own problems with yourself that you are not addressing. The root causes that is in your childhood that you've not addressed and you've left to be suppressed. But long story short, in the future, I hope prisons and jails and really a justice system will be obsolete, and we start to use spiritual healing and spirituality in place of punishment. Replace punishment with spirituality and spiritual healing and emotional healing. We have to introduce these prisoners, these criminals, so-called criminals, these jailbirds, these potential criminals, and we have to start with the home. We have to get families and parents to understand what healthy parenting is, so we could have a society where children are less traumatized, and then there won't be this need to leave the home and go out and become what we know as criminals. It all starts at the home, and our parents fucked us up, and then we fuck up society. But I'm probably gonna be making more videos. I'm gonna start really going in on these videos because I have to get myself used to the camera, because I have a crap load of information to share, and I can't really share the information in details like I want to right now, because I'm still somewhat nervous and I'm still somewhat dealing with the trauma of making these videos. So the trauma that comes up, the pain that comes up when I turn on the camera, then my mind don't tend to process the information like I wanted to. But I have to start really putting myself in front of the camera, and I believe after a while I'll become better at it. Thank you for watching.